जी बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम नहमदुहु व नसल्ली अला रसूलिल करीम अम्मा बाद. So just until everyone sets down, there's a lot of people still coming. Alhamdulillah, we had a very good attendance for today's program. So there's a lot of people still coming. So we didn't start exactly at midnight. And since people are going to be texting in their questions, I'm just waiting for the device to come so I could read those questions. And inshallah, there are other ulama are also inshallah. If anyone has a question that they don't mind just asking, they could ask. Or if you want, you could wait and you could type and text in your questions. And we decided to do this late at night because we wanted to be more casual. Don't be shy to ask any questions. Feel free. And if we know the answer, inshallah, we'll give it. If we don't know, we'll say, La adri, we don't know. Inshallah. वो कंप्यूटर के ज़रिए से पता चलेगा सवालात. There's two tabs
coming in. I'm setting up two more. This one's an interesting one about scientists, why they don't believe. You can pick and choose.
So I mean, does it start from where the questions start from?
From April 15th, basically.
Okay.
So April 14th, that's where it stops.
Okay, from here. Yeah? Yes, if you have a question that you could raise your hand, feel free to ask. That's a very detailed question. I explained that over a month in my fiqh class. So the question was, can you kindly explain the differences between the school of fiqh, the school of Imam Abu Hanifa, school of Imam Shafi'i, school of Imam Malik, school of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. So can you explain that very briefly? It depends on how long you guys want to stay here, how late you guys want to stay awake. But very briefly, I would like to, and again, this is not a detailed answer, nor is it doing justice to the subject. But if you are interested, we have a 1-year program. Please feel free to register for that program. Okay, and a very important announcement. Whoever has not eaten yet, they're serving food for the last time now in the tent. Feel free, eat something, and you could come back. Hopefully, we're still having the Q&A session. So if you have not eaten anything yet, please go to the tents, and they're serving the food right now. Okay? So, the Prophet ﷺ, his entire life is full of benefit and barakah. And he has done many different acts he has done in front of the Sahaba. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala alayhim ajma'een, they were keen students of the Prophet. And many of them dedicated their entire life just to study the life of the Prophet and to understand the message that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam came with. So you have different Sahaba. You have Ibn Mas'ud, you have Ibn Umar, you have Ibn Abbas. Okay, you have the wife of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, and many others. And these are all great scholars on their own. Each one of the Sahaba is a great scholar. And the Quran says that radiyallahu anhum wa radu an, that Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran mentions that believe how the believers brought faith, or how they believe. Believe how the people believed. And over there, the Mufassirun are unanimous that over here means the Sahaba. It means believe in Allah how the Sahaba brought. So they became the yardstick of Iman as well. That what does it mean to believe? What's the level of faith a person's supposed to have is the level that the Sahaba brought. So the Sahaba were like the shining stars. They were the shining stars. But they were also the students of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Many different Sahabas in different life, in the different parts of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam's life, they took different knowledges from the Prophet ﷺ. And these were passed down to their students, and they were passed down to their students. So in the past, there weren't just one madhab. There were actually hundreds of madhahib, if you want to say. There were many madhahibs. But a person who had expertise in Quran and Hadith and the Arabic language and became a student for a very lengthy time period, for 30 years, 40 years under another scholar, then they would reach a certain level which they would be able to make ijtihad on their own. And they will be able to derive ruling from the Quran and Hadith from that extremely long, lengthy period of studying, day in, day out, plus the expertise they had. They also became, you could say, to the level of their teachers. And they would be able to take directly from the Quran and Hadith as well. So during the time of the earlier generations of, let's say, the Sahaba themselves, then the Tabi'un, and the Tabi'un, there were many great schools, there were many great scholars, and it was wonderful. You know, Islam was just flourishing all over. But through the test of time, many of these other schools did not survive, meaning that their students did not carry on that legacy. We have some fragments of some scholars, like this is the view of Sufyan bin Uyayna, or this is the view of Sufyan al-Thawri. Okay, there were some different, scholars, and they had different views, but their entire school was not preserved, from Tahara, or you could say from the time a child is born till the time he passes away, and after he passes away, every single ruling, according to Quran and Hadith, that was not preserved over time. But these four schools did get preserved. They got preserved, means their students carried on their legacy. So why are there only four schools, not five? It's not a divine number that Allah said only four schools are going to stay until the Qiyamah. It's just a test of time, that's all. It could have been possible that 5 schools would have survived, 6 schools would have survived, but only 4 did survive. So that's why we only have the 4 schools of thought. Not because of yes, everything is divine. Everything is planned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously, at the end of the day, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plans it. But this is the reason why there's only 4. Now the question is that which one is right, which one is wrong? They're all right. Because they all take it from Quran and Hadith. They all take it from Quran and Hadith. They all have proofs for every single masla that they discuss. Now, once you start studying Quran and Hadith, that's when you realize how deep it is. It is extremely deep. And the reason why the differences happen is because difference of principles. Some scholar might have a different principle of deriving ruling. Another scholar has a different principle for deriving ruling. Based on the principle, they're both correct. They're both correct. So it will be incorrect for one person to say that madhab is wrong. No, you don't have the right to say that. Sometimes it's due to ignorance that we start saying this is wrong, this is right. Those students that studied fiqh with me for a year, they would understand the examples that I give. That when you study one hadith, you understand something. When you study another hadith, you understand something totally different. When you study a third hadith, you understand something totally opposite of the first two, and they're all sahih. They're from Bukhari and Muslim. And it's like, how do you make sense of that? So this is where fiqh comes up, and this is where the expertise of the scholars. Now, should you follow a madhab or not? Who's able to do ijtihad? That's a very long discussion. That requires actually a classroom environment. It's like you're going to a professor and say, can you explain quantum physics to me in 5 minutes? He could just give you the brief overview, right? But if you really want to study it, take a class. Take a class, study a semester, but you might even have some requirements before you enroll for that class. Certain college classes, you have to finish a few classes before you could take that class, right? Because why? If you take the class without the prerequisites, you're not going to understand anything. You're going to be really lost, and you're not going to appreciate it either. You won't appreciate it. So at the end, you might just close the book and say, I don't understand it. It's probably wrong anyway, So we understand in the normal secular world, non-religious studies, we understand that. There are certain subjects we need to have some level of aptitude, some level of intelligence to really grasp that subject or that class, and then we really appreciate it. And you're like, you know what, I actually understood that. But it took you 12 years of high school, maybe 2 years of college too, and then you could take the 400 classes or something, right? So certain things, it's meant for everyone. Everyone has the right, everyone has the access to it. But you have to build yourself to that level to access it. It will be naive to understand a deep concept which the scholars of the past spent years mastering, and then they approach that subject. When we have studied Sunday Arabic class, and we think we understand Arabic, but we don't. And then we try to grasp, and we say, Imam Shafi is wrong over here, Imam Abu Hanifa is wrong over here, Imam Malik is wrong over here. That's very naive. Yes, after a lot of knowledge and you study, then you learn how to appreciate everyone, how to appreciate all the scholars, and you will appreciate the efforts they put behind. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that's what I have to say. Okay? You have the questions as well, right? So, yeah. अगर आपके Okay. Do you recommend any books in English which talk about the madhabs came about and their principles? I guess this question came just now. There are many books in Arabic. Majority of the knowledge is still in Arabic. Okay, true knowledge is still in Arabic. So you need access to the Arabic language. But there are a few books that are out there. There's a book called, by Sheikh Abu Zohra about the 4 Imams. It's a brief biography of each of the Imam. It's very thick, probably 500-600 pages. Biography of the 4 Imams. So that's a good book you could look into. Okay. When your sutra is in front of you during prayer, the ruling is 2.5 miles. So what is the definition of Masjid al-Kabir? I'm not sure where they got the 2.5 miles from. So this is a fiqh question. Fiqh is, people really find fiqh to be boring. I get really excited by fiqh because that's my passion. Okay. So what is sutra? Sutra is that the Prophet ﷺ recommended that when a person prays salah, especially in the open, that he should put something in front of him like a stick, so that others could pass in front. Because to pass without that barrier is disliked. So you're supposed to dig something in the ground and put a stick in, and it should be 1 cubit length, and cubit is from your fingers to your elbows. That's the size of a cubit. Okay, so at least that much in size. So you could use anything. You could use a chair, you could use a desk, you could use your backpack or something like that. Just put that in front of you. That's a sutra. Obviously, the sutra should not be so far down, it defeats the purpose. So if you said that my sutra is 1 mile away, so what's the point of the sutra? It's for people so they could walk in front of you. So that's how big the sutra, the thing that's in front of you when you pray salah, should be. If someone does not have anything, they could put something flat. If someone does not have anything flat, then some ulama also say that at least make a line on the ground. Hopefully, inshallah, that also serves. But there are some stern warnings from the Prophet ﷺ to walk in front of a person who's praying without a valid excuse. The Prophet ﷺ said, even if you have to wait 70 years, wait. But do not walk in front of them. So without a valid excuse to walk in front of someone who's praying, that's disliked. So there's a 2-part thing here. One is the person praying. Do not pray in such an area which is going to cause difficulty. So do not pray right in front of the door over there. And the entire majma, entire crowd is waiting for you to finish now, right? No, that's the stupidity, I would say, right? Pray in that corner of the masjid, pray in the front over here, where no one has to walk in front of you, right? And if you're in an extremely large masjid, where it becomes extremely difficult for the entire congregation, then the ulama said if it's a large masjid, then it is permissible to walk in front of the person praying, but do not walk directly where the person makes sajda. Go a little bit in the front. So for example, if you go to Masjid al-Haram, if you go to Makkah, it's humongous, and there's people praying all over the place, right? For you to wait and not walk in front of anyone is nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible. So you will walk in front of some people, but do not walk directly where they are praying. Go a little bit in the front. So that's the rule for the walking in front of who pray salah. These questions are coming one by one, so I'm going to start with the first. First come, first serve. Assalamu alaikum, bhai. Salam. It says, I want my husband to attend the masjid daily and the bayan, but he doesn't like to. What should I do? As we heard the talk today by Mufti Hussain Kamani, mashallah, that you have to keep in mind that hidayah is in the hands of Allah. Guidance is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No human being has the right or the power to give guidance to whom he or she wishes to. We could make dua, we could make effort, and we make an earnest effort. So much so that the Prophet ﷺ was not given this right either to grant guidance. He wanted his uncle Abu Talib to accept Islam, but he passed away without. He was a great supporter of Islam. He had a lot of love for the Prophet, but until his death, he did not accept Islam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in the Quran that you do not give guidance to whom you wish. Allah gives guidance. And sometimes it takes a person a little bit longer, sometimes it takes a little bit shorter. Each individual is different. But we have to continuously make an effort with kindness, with love, to guide people towards the right. Sometimes it takes a person 20 years to see the light, and they make tawbah, and they come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people, it might take one day. Sometimes it requires some incidents to happen in their family. Someone, some loved one of theirs passed away, and they had time to reflect on that, and then they start to come close to Allah. So each one has their own time. Don't judge anyone. Don't force anyone. But don't give up either. Don't stop making effort. With love and kindness, it's really hard to say no to someone who's being so kind to you. He's speaking to you very kindly, very nicely. He just has the most perfect character. How long are you going to hate him? How long are you going to say no to him? At the end of the day, you're just going to like him. It's like, man, this guy is just too nice. I just can't say no. You know what? He's telling me so much to come to the masjid just once for the bayan. Let me just go check it out. And he's going to come, right? It's all about character, and it's all about love. Yes, sometimes our own loved ones, we don't show love to. Our own loved ones, we don't show love to. We're very harsh on them. So the husband might be very harsh on the wife because he wants the wife to change. The wife might be very hard on the husband because she wants the husband to change. The parents are very harsh on the children. Why? Because they want the children to be very pious and be like angels, or do all that in Islam which they could not do. So they forced the children, right? Sometimes the older brother is harsh on the younger brother. So there's a lot but they do it out of love. They have concern. They do have concern. Why? Because they want the best. They want the best for the individual. But the way they go about doing it is incorrect. And that instead of helping it, it makes the situation worse. So one thing keep in mind, that continuously make dua. One thing that we don't do for our own Muslim brothers and our own family members is make dua. We do the preaching and we do the judging, but we don't make dua. If you really have concern for someone, wake up in tahajjud. Cry for that person. Really, seriously, cry for the person. Allah, change his heart. That's what the Prophet did. The Prophet would cry in tahajjud for the ummah. He would also make effort during the day, but during the night time, he will be weeping for the ummah. He made dua for Abu Jahl and Umar. Allah, make at least one of these accept Islam. But he's making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So make dua. If someone's relatives, now we're not saying it has to be a husband or wife or children, any of your relatives you really care about and you want them to come closer to Islam as well as you yourself, make dua for that person. And always hate the mistake or the sin. Don't hate the sinner. Don't start hating the person. Don't start judging the person. Yes, hate the sin, that I really don't like him, he's not praying salah. But he's a good guy. Or, she's a good girl. But it's just that that's a bad habit. Or that sin is not good. But you know what, if he just makes a little bit of effort, he could be a really good person. He could be the best of all people, right? That's the type of attitude we have to have. Always see the good in people. But sometimes what we do is we don't really want to make effort. It's like, yeah, Allah will give him hidayat whenever he wants to, let him do whatever he wants. No, that's also a wrong attitude. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had concern and he made effort as well. So if the husband doesn't want to come to the masjid daily or for the bayan, give it a time. Just keep making effort, keep talking. One thing that helps a lot is to have some type of religious talk together as a family in the homes. We asked our teacher, one of our teachers, Mufti Muhammad Ali, he taught us, Sunan al-Tirmidhi, he taught me Hidayah, taught me Jalalain, he taught me many books, mashallah. He was the chief judge of the entire Bhopal of his time. Very great scholar, very senior scholar. But his kids are like perfect. I'm like, man. So this time we went to visit him. And we asked him, Ustad, what's the prescription? What's the key? How do you do this to raise such beautiful children? Like, mashallah, your kids they're all grown adults, mashallah, but they're perfect in every way. so much, humbleness, so much khidmat, respect for the parents, everything, mashallah. So he said that on a daily basis, sit with your family and have some religious talk. It doesn't have to be a particular book. It could be something that you heard in the bayan, in the masjid. Go home, sit with your family. Have a specific family time. Have a family time with your kids and your spouses and talk about Allah. Maybe pick a book of seerah one day. Maybe the sunnahs of the Prophet ﷺ one day. Maybe Fadali Amal one day. Maybe Muntakhab al-Ahadith. Whatever it is, some good book that you want to learn and you want the family, but don't prolong it. Don't do like an hour because you're not going to sit. Make it 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But do it daily. You will see the results of that. Not right away. After a month, 2 months, 3 months, the whole family starts to change. So try that as well. The next question is, a lot of non-Muslims have been asking me for an English translation of the Quran. What translation would you recommend to give them? There are many translations that are out there, but unfortunately, majority of them are not recommended. Okay? They have some errors, some have their own biased opinions in there, some are not translated properly. Usually what you have is someone who's really good in Arabic, but his English is very poor. Someone who's really good in English, but his Arabic is very poor. So seldomly you get someone who has a mastery of the both. But the one that I do recommend is called The Gracious Quran by Dr. Zaki Hamad. It's a very beautiful translation, and our students that study here, they know. It just is probably one of the best translations that's out there. It's very precise. The person is expert in the Arabic language as well as the English language. There's no biasism in there. There's no personal agendas that are in there. He took almost 20 to 30 years to translate this. He's very precise. Okay, so his name is Dr. Zaki Hamad, and the translation called The Gracious Quran. The Gracious Quran. And at the end of it, he's actually done a really deep analysis of all the previous translations. The first time Quran was translated into a European language up till the current day, and he talks about each one of them. So it's a really good book to have. You could get the hardcover one for like $35, the softcover one is $20. I don't make a penny by advertising him, but just for your own benefit, inshallah. The next question is it permissible to indulge in interest for an educational purpose? Meaning to take out interest-bearing loans to pursue an educational degree if one cannot afford it. Now, before I go into this question, this is a very common question. Very common question. Unfortunately, our ummah is very involved in this. But first, we need to understand how grave interest is in Islam. There are many sins, and the ulama have compiled a list of major sins. Like Imam Zahabi, he has a book called Al-Kaba'ir, and all the major sins are recorded in there. So many other ulama have also written books of major sins. So there are sins, for example, missing salah. For example, you overslept, or a person, he doesn't pay his zakat, he doesn't fast. Not because he doesn't believe it, he's just lazy, or he's just really weak and he can't do it. He knows he's supposed to do it, he just doesn't do it. So there are all these sins, but the only sin in Islam, in the entire scope of Islam, the only sin which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares war against the person who does that sin is interest. Now think about that for a while. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that a person should leave interest, and if he does not, let him prepare for war with Allah and His Rasul. Now, can a person ever be successful in anything in life if he is engaging in war with Allah or with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Can there be any blessing? Can there be any barakah? Can there be any happiness? Is he ever going to go far in life with that? And this is not some story of a scholar, or this is not some book in Urdu that's written. This is the Quran I'm talking about. This is Quran. But Allah declares war against a person who indulges in interest. Indulges in interest. So this is not a light matter. Now think about it. There's so many other sins. There's so many other commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that can be broken. Salat is so great that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called the Prophet alayhi salam to the heavens to give him the gift of salah. But even for salah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say, I declare war upon that person. So now you could answer the question yourself, that would it be okay to get interest-bearing loans for the sake of education? Now, if you really want a good education, study hard. Be good in high school. Get some scholarships. Get your GPA very good. Get your ACTs and SATs really high. Apply. There's so many scholarships out there, okay? There's literally millions of scholarships. But you don't want to make the effort. I'd rather just take a loan. Why? Why would you want to get into war with Allah? Make the extra effort. Apply. Apply for scholarships. If you have to delay 1 year of education because you have to apply for so many places, do that. If you cannot get into the best university, go to a university that's a little bit less than that. Okay? It's not necessary that you have to get into Harvard or else your life is over. No, I think University of Chicago is also okay. Or maybe UIC is okay. Or maybe a local school. Maybe you get a degree from there as well. Right? I have to become a doctor. Alhamdulillah, the Ummah has many Muslim doctors. If you do not become a doctor, there's not going to be a huge loss to the Ummah. So you don't have to do anything. You want to do it. So get that corrected first. Do you have to do it or do you want to do it? Okay? If you want to do it, that's your choice. Someone put a gun to your head, said, become a doctor, I'm going to kill you. Then fine, yeah, maybe interest may be okay because you're saving your life now. But no one's doing that to you. Right? No one is doing that to you. So you have to apply. There's Muslim scholarships as well. Get as much money as you can. Contact your relatives, your cousins, your distant relative that stays in Cambodia and he has a lot of money. Write to him. And take a qard hasana. Qard hasana means that you borrow money from someone and you promise that I'm going to pay you back the same amount by so and so date. Do that. But there's many other ways that inshallah you could fulfill your educational dreams without taking an interest-bearing loan. But you have to make the effort. Work, take a job, save money, right? But you have to, your life cannot be relaxed without making any effort and say that I have to take an interest-bearing loan. No, make some adjustments. Just for the sake to stay away from the war with Allah, go through some difficulties in your life. Live a simpler life. Don't spend so much, So there's a lot of things that you could try to, inshallah, work with to stay away from this. One second. How a person should defend name labeling that is out there in the Ummah, like Sufi, Salafi, Ahle Hadith, etc. I don't understand the question. Should you defend the name labelings or not? One thing to keep in mind, some people say that, when you ask them that, what school of fiqh do you follow or etc., they said that, I'm a Muslim. It's like, I didn't doubt you're a Muslim. We agree that you're a Muslim. I'm also Muslim, alhamdulillah. Sometimes it's like saying that, by which state are you from? It's like, I'm from America. Like, I know you're from America, I just asked you which state, So there's no contradiction by saying you're from Illinois or you're from America, right? It depends on what question is being asked. So if someone's asking you a question, don't feel like offended, like he's doubting your iman and everything. Sometimes a lot of these labels are misunderstood. So sometimes these labels, because of how some people, they act in certain manner, they get a bad label. For example, I'll just take one of the labels over here, Sufi. So if you type in Sufi in Google or YouTube, you find some crazy videos, I guess, right? It's like, yeah, that word is pretty bad. I don't want to be labeled as a Sufi ever, right? And then someone else might say, well, according to me, Sufi is a person that tries to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by following the Sharia of Quran and Hadith. And according to me, that's a Sufi. It's like, that's a good title. I think I'm a Sufi now, So it depends on how you use the title. It depends on how you use the labels. We don't need labels. We don't need to defend or define anyone based upon labels. That's not what Muslims do. But put everything in its appropriate place. Nothing is bad, nothing is good, is how you make it. Is how you make the label. Maulana, it's okay.
I'm skipping a couple of questions, a few questions in the sequence that Mufti Sahib was moving. This is one question concerning tonight's lecture of Dajjal given by a Muslim brother. I have also listened to a lecture on YouTube by another Muslim brother who said that Prophet Isa alayhi salam will return to this dunya and will come to face Dajjal. So this is correct. Dajjal will be killed and will face his end by the hands of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. So whatever you have heard is correct. Second question, can you please give me some advice on how to have khushu in salah? Now usually when we hear the word khushu, if you look in the books of salah, two words are used, khushu and khudu, and the ulama explain that khushu is the inner concentration and khudu is the apparent concentration, meaning from inside, from the heart also you should be focused when you are praying salah, and as far as the body parts are concerned, they should also be calm when you are praying salah. So it's a combination of these two things. You're not scratching here and there, you're not moving, you're not fixing your clothes. This also affects your concentration in salah. So this is part of khudu. Khushu is the inner concentration, and a few methods have been mentioned in the ahadith and by the scholars also. The famous hadith in which it is the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam, it is in which the question was asked, Mal ihsan, or Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what is ihsan? And the reply was, An ta'budallaha ka'annaka tara, more or less meaning in English, that you should worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should do His ibadah as if you are seeing Him. And if you cannot have this level of concentration, then the second and the lower level than this is that He is seeing you, He is watching you. So the highest level is we develop this feeling that I am seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we are in front of the governor of the state or somebody of a high status in this dunya, we make sure we are in the attire that is required, we have the etiquettes and everything. So likewise, if we have this feeling that we are seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, automatically things will be calm inside also and outside also. If this feeling cannot be developed, the second level is that He is seeing us, He is watching us. Other than that, the ulama say when we read salah, we focus on the words of the salah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, as if we are reading Quran in front of us, so we are focusing on the words. The fourth way of this is if you know the mafhum, the meaning, the translation of the ayahs, very good. We focus on the translation of the ayahs. What is the meaning of Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen? Subhana Rabbiyal Azim in ruku, what does it mean? So that's why it's very beneficial if one is able to learn at least the meaning of whatever is recited in the whole salah. This automatically will develop khushu and khudu in his salah. And it is mentioned regarding the tabi'een rahimahumullah and some of the sahaba radiyallahu anhum. They said we used to pray salah with so much concentration that for many years, 30 years, 35 years, we never knew who was praying on our right side and who was praying on our left side in the masjid. Such was the level of khushu and khudu in the salah. So these points can be implemented and used.
Next question is, how come there's a lot of scientists that are atheists, especially since they are supposed to have the sharpest minds? Aren't they supposed to come to the conclusion that Islam is the truth? This makes me question sometimes, and I have, this makes me question sometimes, and I have doubts because of it. So how do I deal with it? One thing to realize is science as a subject, they have their principles of how to come to a conclusion. It means everything must be observed and has to be observable, And through testing, you have to come to a conclusion. And after multiple testing, then you'll come to a valid, and either it'll become a theory or become a law. So they stick to their principles. And anything that cannot be observed, that is out of the scope of science. Since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not observable, the qudrat of Allah, the power of Allah, the system of Allah is observable, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is out of the scope of science and the discussion of science. It is for that reason, whichever subject you're indulged in for a very long time, you're going to have a lot of confidence in that, and you're going to start believing in that. So these individuals, they're studying this day in, day out. And that shapes the form of their mind. That if I want to come to a conclusion for anything, it has to be observable, and I have to be able to test it. So yes, there's a lot of echo. Many individuals, when they study a social science or a science class, they do come out the fold of Islam. In fact, I was taking a class, and I mentioned the story before as well to some individuals and my students, that I was taking a class of sociology, and I noticed that, I was speaking to the professor was a Muslim as well, and the person says that majority of my Muslim friends that have done graduate studies in social sciences, they have left the fold of Islam. Muslims. So it's a very common trend. Why? Because day in, day out, you are forced to think in a particular manner and to come to a conclusion in that particular manner, and that's it. You're not allowed to go outside that way of thinking. You're not allowed to think outside that specific sets of rules that you have. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has a different mi'yar, a different way of gauging intelligence. And the Prophet ﷺ also has a different way mentioned in ahadith, that who is an intelligent person. So to us, an intelligent person who scores a perfect on his ACTs and SATs, or he has a triple PhD or something, we say, man, that guy is a genius. He's so smart. He's able to do this, he's able to do that, and we get really impressed by his intelligence. Now, we as believers, we know that the Prophet ﷺ is the most truthful person. As Ibn Mas'ud mentioned, as-sadiq wal-masduq. He is the most truthful person, and everyone also agreed on his truth. Okay, sorry. So, it was unanimously agreed that the Prophet ﷺ is the most truthful person. And as a Muslim and as a believer, we know that whatever came out of the Prophet's mouth is the truth. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. That no word, no utterance, no articulation comes on the lips of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, except that it is inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. He does not speak from his passions. He does not speak from his side. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا wahi. It is but a wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whatever the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said is the truth. Is 100% truth. So what has the Prophet ﷺ said? Al-kayyisu man dana nafsahu wa amila lima ba'd al-maut wal-ajizu man ittaba al-hawa wa tamanna ala Allah al-amani. Al-kayyis, the intelligent person, the genius person is he who takes stock of his life, himself, and prepares for the life of hereafter. And the stupid person is he who follows whatever he wants to believe in, follows whatever desires he has, and he has high hopes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in today's time, we say that Einstein was a genius, or we say so-and-so was a genius. But in the eyes of Allah and His Rasul, they were fools, because they could not come to realize who Allah is. They could not realize who the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is. So they could be smart in this world. They know a lot of facts. They know a lot of theories and equations. But when it comes to true intelligence, the Prophet has laid it very clearly. That individual who recognizes Allah, recognizes the Prophet, follows the teaching, they are the intelligent persons. But when we stay in an environment for a very, very long time, it's very easy to be won over by them. It's very easy. For example, if you stay in the masjid environment for a very long time, okay, or if you stay in a madrasa or a school or a one-year program, your mind is going to be thinking in a different manner. You will think in a manner, by the time the year ends, your thought process and another person's thought process will be totally different. Why? Because you stayed in this environment studying Quran and Hadith for a very long time. If you stay in a secular environment where they don't talk about God, where the discussion of God is outside the realm of discussions, so we don't discuss that here. That doesn't involve us. I'm taking biology class right now because I have to take it. So I asked the professor that, how do the religious people make sense of all this? What happens to their faith when they study all this? He said, I leave that out of my class. We don't discuss religion in this class. That's just not allowed in my class. So in other words, the discussion of God is just not there. You're not allowed to at all. So when you're not going to be discussing it, thinking about it, it's going to leave your life. You're going to be void of that. And then someone else tells you some information, you're going to believe it. So this is where the doubt comes from. We're so involved in that lifestyle day in and day out. We're taking 12 credit hours, 15 credit hours. We're full-time students or double full-time students sometimes. But that's all we're studying day in and day out. But when it comes to Quran, Hadith, we don't even have 5 minutes to open the Quran. We don't have 5 minutes to open the Quran. We don't have 5 minutes to study the Prophet ﷺ narrations. We cannot come to the masjid. Why? Because we're in school the whole day. And then we say, I have doubts. Obviously, you're going to get doubts. What are you going to get? More yaqeen? Yaqeen comes from Quran and Hadith and the statements of the Prophet ﷺ. So we need to take stock of ourselves that why am I getting these doubts? Maybe I'm in the wrong place for a very long time. I'm not saying don't go to college, universities, become the best in the world, right? But balance it out with your iman as well. Balance it out with the education of Islam as well. Hear the other side of the story as well. If you have doubts in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, go to the ulama, bring the doubts forward, discuss it with them. But we're afraid that we're going to be judged. We're afraid that we might get bashed or we might get branded or like that. So I'm just going to keep the doubts in my heart and let it, harvest more and more. And then eventually we lose our faith. So we're actually doing this to ourselves. So if you have these doubts, come to the scholars. Have a meeting with them. Can I sit down and speak to you? And alhamdulillah, we have people that have done that. We have people that say, can I please make an appointment with you? And we'll sit 3 hours with them. We will take our time from our families, take time from our weekends or vacations, this and that. If you need help, reach out to a scholar. They will help you if they're able to do it. If not, they'll direct you to someone else that might be able to help you out. But we have to approach the scholars themselves. Take it. Okay. We'll take a few more questions and we'll call it a night. Unfortunately, whenever we have a Q&A session, we never get to finish our Q&As. I think we do like 5% of all the questions, and I really feel bad for all the other people that did send in a Q&A because they really want to get their question answered. Some of them are just playing around, yes, but a lot of people they have genuine questions and they want to answer. So if you could not get your question answered, try to reach out to us directly. We're here. We're going to be here in the retreat as well. If you're afraid that if it's a very personal question and you want to stay anonymous, I could, give you my cell number or I could give you my email address, and inshallah, hopefully I'll email you back your questions. So please don't feel that your question is not being answered or you're being rejected, that every time I come in Q&A session, my question is never answered. We really would like to do it, but with the amount of questions that rolled in just now, it'll go up to Fajr. And then we'll miss the whole morning session then. So I'll take a few more questions and inshallah then we'll call it a night. Okay. What is the hikmah behind pork being haram? How should we explain this to our non-Muslim friends? Very good question, mashallah. So, alhamdulillah, it was phrased really nicely. What is the hikmah? What is the wisdom? They didn't say what is the reason. Because they know the reason is what? Allah said it's haram in the Quran. That's the reason, right? So there are certain things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned. The reasoning and also the wisdom behind it as well. One thing we have to realize that Allah is Hakim. Allah is Hakim, Allah is all-wise. وَفِعْلُ الْحَكِيمِ لَا يَخْلُ عَنِ الْحِكْمَةِ. And the fi'l of a hakim, a wise person, is never free from wisdom. It always has wisdom. So every command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every injunction of the Quran Hadith is full of wisdom. Sometimes we don't realize the wisdom, and that's okay. That is perfectly okay if you do not realize the wisdom. As long as you understand the reasoning is what? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the narration, that stay away from interest, don't eat pork, don't eat haram meat, don't drink wine. Sometimes we might understand the wisdom, but it's not based upon wisdom. Rulings and injunctions are not based upon wisdom. Why? Because one day I could think of a wisdom, the next day you could prove me wrong, you could prove my wisdom wrong. And something else could be more correct, right? So it's not based upon wisdom, it's based upon prophetic injunctions and from the Quran. But many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does mention, or the Prophet ﷺ do mention the reason why certain rulings are there in Islam. But we have to keep in mind that we're really weak. Our minds are very weak. And we cannot comprehend the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. It's not possible. Because first of all, our knowledge is very limited. And I always give this example, that our memories are limited and our ability to deduce information is also very limited. For example, if I were to ask you, what did you eat for lunch today? You said, I know what I ate, man. But if I ask you, what did you eat 3 months ago? And I give you a specific date, what did you eat for lunch? If you didn't write it down, you probably don't know. You forgot. Because why? It's not important. You're going to forget, right? If I were to ask, how many hands do you have? You say, I have 2 hands. How many noses do you have? Come on, stop playing. I have 1 nose. How many strands of hair on top of your head? I don't know. So we don't know what's even on top of our own bodies, right? We don't have that much. So our knowledge is limited, our memories are limited, our intelligence is limited. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has unlimited knowledge, infinite knowledge. Allah knows how many strands are on top of my head, how many in his head, how many is his head, every single human being, how long the hair are, when is it going to turn gray, when is it going to fall, who's going to pick it up, where is it going to be thrown out, where is it going to end up, how is it going to decompose, is someone going to burn it or not. This is just hair I'm talking about here, right? This is the infinite knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now with our puny knowledges, we understand the infinite wisdom of Allah. That what's the wisdom for this? If you don't understand, brother, it's okay. It's all right. As long as you know you're supposed to do it or not do it. Yes, you could try to understand the wisdom. That's okay. And so why is pork haram? Because Allah said it's haram. Now, some ulama have mentioned few of the wisdoms. That it's the way that animal is. It's just full of filth. It eats filth. It lives in filth. Everything about it is filth. Also, it's very impossible to slaughter, because in Islam, if you want to slaughter an animal, you got to cut the neck. You can't really find a neck on a pig, right? So that's also not possible. So there's many small little wisdoms they get, but those are not the reasons. Because it's possible tomorrow there's a new species of pig that has a very nice, elegant neck. And you said, okay, now I could eat it, because now there's a neck for me to slaughter. No, that's not the point, right? The reason is that Allah made it haram, so it's haram. How do Yajuj and Majuj, or Gog and Magog, how are they related to Dajjal? They're not related by blood or anything, so they're not related, okay? And are they going to come before the Day of Judgment? So first Dajjal is going to come, according to the narrations and what the ulama have explained, that first Dajjal is going to come, and at the time of Dajjal there will be Mahdi, and then Isa alayhi salam come, and Isa alayhi salam is the one that's going to kill Dajjal at the end. And after that, Isa alayhi salam is going to stay for a few years. And he will marry, he will have children, he will pass away. And then later on, after many years, then Yajuj and Majuj will come out. Okay, so that's the sequence of it. Okay, this is for this. We'll kind of just end on this. How do I introduce a prospective spouse to my parents? So this is for the youngsters here. Many of the youngsters that are in college, they want to get married. And they generally don't want to be in a haram relationship. And I actually have many individuals contact me on this. Okay? I'm not talking about just 1, 2. A lot of youth contact that I don't want to be in a haram relationship. I want to get married. but how do I bring it to my parents? And I'm afraid that my parents think I'm too young. My parents think I'm not mature enough, and they're just going to shoot down the idea, and they're going to think I'm a very terrible kid, that I'm messing around with girls. Or if it's a girl, they'll say that I'm messing around with boys. And how do I approach my parents about this? This is a genuine concern. And this is something that the parents need to kind of open their hearts a little and understand. That if a child, your son or your daughter, really wants to abstain from sin, and they want to get married, listen to them. Yes, you could encourage them and say that maybe that person is not the best person for you. You're just blindly in love, puppy love. Maybe there's a better spouse for you. The parents could explain that aspect, but don't just shoot them down. Said, no, you're going to go to high school, you're going to go to college, get your bachelor's, go to medical school, do your residency, this and that, and by the age of 40, then you'll get married. Like, that's not practical, right? That's really not practical, that you expect them to wait that long. They're going to get involved in a haram relationship, and then you will regret it. You will regret it. So those parents that are listening online, please listen to your children. Have open dialogues with. And if you, as a youngster, are thinking about marriage, have a talk. Choose that one parent of yours that's you have a closer relationship with, that kind of listens to you, and you have those casual talks in the kitchen. It could be your mother, she's washing the dishes, and you just talk about it, like, this is what happened in college, this is what happened. It could be your dad that you like to have, you open up with them, and just say that, Dad, I think I should be thinking about marriage now, what do you think about it? See, test the waters a little, see it. But sometimes you have to keep on bringing the topic up until get the hint. Like, he's talking a lot. Let me find out what's going on over here. Leave hints for them. But do not be involved in a haram relationship during the time. That's still haram. Don't say like, no, I'm still going to have my girlfriend on the side, my boyfriend on the side, I'm going to win my parents over. No. Haram is haram. But let's say that there's someone that this at first glance is permissible, or about. Let's say your friend's sister or your friend's brother, if it's a girl, and you heard a lot about them, mashallah, he's hafiz of the Quran, and he's, mashallah, doing really good in college and everything, and you said, that might be a good person for me, right? And you're interested. Now, you're not involved in any type of relationship. You're not sending any direct messages on Twitter or something like that, or you're not involved in Facebook and tagging each other and poking each other, whatever you guys do nowadays, You're not doing all that. But you want to keep it halal, and you're afraid you're going to fall in sin. You need to speak to your parents. You really need to speak to his parents. Sometimes we're really afraid to talk to our parents. Learn how to do it. Bring it up casually. If you keep on bringing it, your parents, at the end of the day, they want the best for you. That's all they want. They don't want anything bad for you. They just want you to be happy. They want you to be successful. Know that. They're not your enemies. They are not your enemies. Your parents are not your enemies. So have a casual talk with your parents and explain to them. And if they listen, good. If not, listen to your parents. Sometimes we are naive that we don't listen to our parents. Keep in mind, they've seen a lot more days of the world than we have. They've been through good times, bad times. Okay? They've been through a lot of different situations. And they could see something when something is not going to turn out right or wrong. So they will give you advice that, beta, I don't think that's a good thing for you right now. I think you should just wait a little bit, study a little bit more, or maybe that's not the right person for you. Listen to them. Don't be so naive that you're not going to listen to your parents at all. Who is the person that knows you the best? Your mother. Yeah, she grew you up when you were an infant. Every day she was there. Every night she was there. When you were sick, she was looking after you, right? When you were sick, she did not eat. When you were sick, she felt sick. You know how much love a parent has. And sometimes we throw that relationship of our parents because why? We have a little puppy love with someone in college. And we were crazy in love with that person, so I'm going to run away. I'm going to do a secret nikah, or I'm going to walk away. But you're breaking your parents' hearts, man. What are you guys doing? Don't do something like that. Befriend your parents. Befriend your parents and be able to communicate with them. And once you start appreciating your parents, what they're really doing for you, how much work they're doing, working day in, like a lot of the parents that came from overseas, they work hard jobs sometimes just to save up for their children so they could get a good education. And I'm going to throw the entire relationship away. Because why? We met someone. That's a lot of injustice. A lot of injustice to the parents we're doing right there, right? So be wise. Don't rush. Don't make hasty decisions. Think thoroughly. And at the end of the day, There's no relationship stronger than the relationship between you and Allah. There's no relationship stronger than you and Allah. What would Allah want you to do? Think about that. What would the Prophet want you to do? Is that something that he would want you to get involved in right now? But yeah, if someone is afraid that they're going to be involved in zina, they're going to be involved in zina, they're going to be involved in a haram relationship for a very long time, I think take the heat from your parent, but at least talk to them. They'll get angry for 1 day, 2 days, 1 month, 2 months. At the end of the day, they'll listen. They're okay, you know what? You're still a good son or a good daughter. You still respect me. You do my khidmat. You look after me. You're not rude to me. Okay, beta, what is it? Let me hear you. What do you have to say? What do you have to say? So, I'm not saying that it will happen and you will marry the person that you want to marry. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen. I'm just saying that don't ruin your relationship with your parents. Think thoroughly, think wisely, with hikmat, without being involved in any sins, without breaking the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think thoroughly and then take the step. And you will appreciate it when everyone is happy. Your parents are happy, her parents are happy, you both did not involve in sin, Allah is happy with you, the Prophet is happy. It's a beautiful marriage then. It works out beautifully, but you have to work for that, okay? I know I went off on this topic because the only reason I went off the topic is a lot of people have been asking me this question, that how do I break this to my parents? How do I talk to my parents, And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned that man istata'a minkum al-ba'ata falyatazawwaj, that whomsoever of you has the ability to marry, you should get married. If you have the ability, if you have the financial backing, your parents are also supportive, don't delay it, get married, okay? But do it the proper manner. To have these secret nikahs is impermissible. It's impermissible to have a secret nikah. I'm clearly mentioning this, hear my word properly. I'm not saying that nikah does not take place. The nikah could take place, but it's impermissible to do something like that. The whole point of nikah is to do it in public, with the wishes, with the du'as of your parents, with the wali's permission. That's how it should be. If you're man enough to marry the girl, be man enough to do it in front of your parents with their approval, okay? So have some courage, and inshallah, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assist you. Make dua to Allah. I know some individuals that after they came closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they made tawbah, they told that person that we're not going to talk. We're not going to talk until we get married. That's it, khalas. We're separating. Deleted the contact. But he still wanted to marry her, he wanted to marry him. But they both wanted to come close to Allah first. And they were making dua to Allah. They were making dua. I know this person very personally. And there's something, we were at the time in India in Khuruj. And I mentioned to this my students when we went to Indiana and Khuruj. So I think, I'm just going to end at the story. So I think the students probably will, enjoy this. That I was 16 years old. I was 16 years old and I went to India for Jamaat. I don't know what I was doing there, okay? I just ended up there somehow. And there was this one person from Mauritius. This guy was cool, man. This guy was really cool. I'm not telling you, this guy had, he had the walk, he had the talk, he had the lugs, he had the miswak in his mouth in a specific style and everything, He just had it. And everyone in Jamaat would just look up to this guy. He was like, he knew how to walk the walk, And so we would have long conversation. That's what you do in Jamaat when you're a student, right? You just talk the whole night and sleep during the Fajr 6 points, right? You don't do anything like that. So I got to know him really well. So he kind of, he opened up that he was a youngster, he was a Muslim. And his father, mashallah, was really rich. He has a factory in Mauritius as well and everything. But his girlfriend was a Hindu. And the girlfriend was the neighbor as well, okay? So it was a neighbor, they were next to each other, but she was a Hindu. And they got really close. Now this guy, mashallah, again, he has the money. He says, there's no drug out there that I have not done. I've done everything. There's no sin out there that I've not done. I've done everything. So don't tell me what's out there, okay? I've been there, done that. But khair, he was living the life. He was living the life. And Mauritius, if you know Mauritius, it's beautiful. It's just gorgeous. The beaches, clear waters, the sand, the temperature, the heat, everything is like a smaller paradise, okay? So mashallah, he has the money, he has the looks, he has the girlfriend now, he has a paradise island. What else can you ask for as far as dunya-wise? So one time he says that me and my girlfriend, we were driving by, and there was a church that we passed by, and she goes like this, and she makes a cross on her body, and he's like, what are you doing? You're a Hindu, man. You're not supposed to do all that stuff. It's like, no, I don't believe in all those idols and everything. I think this religion kind of makes more sense to me a little bit. So I'm just looking into this a little bit now. He said, nah, that's not right. Check out Islam. Islam is better. Now, that little pride came in him now, that he wanted to show off what he's all about. He's like, so now he wanted to impress Islam on him. Obviously, he's a man, that's his girlfriend, he wants to show what Islam is, right? So it's like, okay, so he wanted to learn about Islam now. So now he realized he doesn't know anything. Okay, he doesn't know anything about Islam. So he goes to the local Maulana, he starts asking questions, then he goes to his girlfriend and explains about Islam. She gets a bit interested, right? But at the same process, he's getting closer to Allah, closer to the masjid, starts praying. Because now, if he's going to be preaching something and is not following it, she's not going to believe him, right? So just to impress Islam, he started to pray a little bit, go to the masjid a little bit, this and that. And this slowly happened, and this slow transformation came. Then he goes out in 3 days Jamaat as well, and that's when he realized, like, man, life is not what I thought it was. We have to be accountable for our actions, this and that, and his life changed. His life changed. So then he goes 40 days from there, and he went 40 days to Reunion. Now, Reunion is an island right off of Mauritius, and Reunion is still a French colony. So it's all the fashion of France, it's in Reunion, but Reunion is a tropical island, it's very hot, so they feel like there's no need to wear clothing there, okay? So majority of people are not dressed properly. So he said, I go out the masjid, I can't look up, I can't look down. Because why? There's fitna everywhere. So he runs back in the masjid. Because now he wants to change. But after the 40 days, he said, you know what? If I really want to marry this girl, and I want my marriage to work out, I cannot be displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if I please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is in control of everyone's heart. As the hadith says, that the qalb of a mu'min, or qalb of a person, is in the 2 fingers of Rahman. Allah, because he said, if I just make Allah happy, Allah will change everyone's hearts, and it'll work out. So he said, fine, we're going to do this. So he became firm. And he stopped talking, all communications. She also accepted Islam, but the father is a Hindu. Okay, the father is a Hindu, a very hardcore Hindu. But now the father notices that she's not eating lunch for a whole month, okay, because she was fasting. She started wearing long skirts instead of wearing skimpy clothing. So, and stopped hanging around with certain friends, this and that. So this change came in her as well. So she accepted Islam. And the father, whether he's happy or not, then he's now, when I was 16, this is 1998 now, okay, before some of you guys were born. He's in 4 months with me. And he's talking to her about that. Inshallah, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to the father. I'm going to ask her hand in marriage. I'm going to try to work it out. If not, I'm just going to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm going to make sure, but I'm not going to do anything haram. And this guy, mashallah, when he spoke about Allah, man, he would make you cry. So much yaqeen, and the way he would just talk about the love of Allah, the qualities of Allah, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the entire majma of India, they would just be listening to him. Like, who is this guy? Because why? This guy made sacrifices in his life. He changed his life, and he put sacrifices. It's not easy to do that. And he did it for what? For the connection of Allah. He did not want to displease Allah. So there was some, you could say there's some effect in his words. There were simple words. If I gave the same talk, no one would be sitting. He gave a talk, everyone sat. It was the same content, same subject matter. But mashallah, he was speaking from his heart. He did this sacrifice. Khair, we lost touch. I finished my time, not in jail. He finished his time. And then I went back. I came over here, finished my senior year of high school. And then Allah inspired me that I wanted to become a scholar, so then I went to South Africa. When I went to South Africa, my brother-in-law, he calls me. He said, hey, guess who's here in Chicago? I'm like, who? He said, you know Imran? The one from Mauritius? I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, he's here in Chicago. He's spending 40 days right now in Chicago. I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. He's like, okay, so I start speaking to my brother-in-law. He tells me an entire story that after he finished the time, he went to Mauritius. He went to the parents of the girl. He asked their hand in marriage. They accepted it. He got married. They moved to England. Alhamdulillah, both husband and wife are extremely happy, raising beautiful children. They had a child at the time, and he was spending 40 days in Chicago at that time. But I'm saying the person, did not want to displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he cried before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his dua. His dua did get accepted. And he did marry the person he wanted to marry without displeasing anyone. Not the parents, not Allah, no one. And alhamdulillah, he's living a life where Allah is happy with him. So dear respected brothers and sisters, this could happen to us as well. Let us turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the main thing is you need to stop that haram relationship. You can't get the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you're displaying Allah, right? Especially for the one thing that you need help for. You need help for that, but you're disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the same thing. So stop the communication, delete the email, delete the contact, and say that inshallah we'll make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll speak to my parents, you speak to your parents. If it's meant to be, then inshallah Allah will let it happen. Have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but make dua, make earnest dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for those youngsters that really do want to get married. They want to get married, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it such that you have a relationship which is that you both are fulfilling the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy, and your parents are happy with you as well. So inshallah we'll end over here. If there's any other questions, inshallah, we'll try to have another Q&A session maybe, we'll see, if possible. But if not, do not hesitate to come to us and ask questions. You know, I promise you, we won't judge. A lot of people's like, I don't want to ask, just now you look down upon me. Trust me, I've heard some really crazy stories, okay? So, and alhamdulillah, I still love those people. They're really good friends of mine. I love them from the bottom of my heart. If you're afraid, you could send me a text and say, I'd rather stay. And you could check my phone, I have a few anonymous contacts. Because why? The person asks me questions, but I don't know who they are. And when I say, who are you? It's like, I'd rather stay anonymous. I'm like, khair, you want to stay anonymous? Stay anonymous. I'm not going to push it. So they ask questions while they're anonymous. So you could also ask questions staying anonymous as well. Okay? Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallah wa bihamdika.
Jazakallah khair to Mawlana Kashif Sahib, Mufti Azaz. Inshallah, Mawlana Kashif is going to be with us tomorrow. He's got he's going to have programs tomorrow and Sunday. Mufti Azaz as well. It's quite late, so instead of waking up at 3 o'clock for tahajjud, I would recommend and request all of us who are present here, inshallah, to take 5-10 minutes. We've heard so many lectures, so many things, beautiful things today. It's time to practice on that. So take this opportunity to pray 4 rakat salah, 2 rakat of salat al-shukr, and thanking Allah for this iman, for this beautiful evening, for this beautiful time for i'tikaf and spending the time with the company of these scholars. And 2 rakat salat al-hajah. It's just the intentions. The salah are performed the way you perform any other nafil rakah. And beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep you and I steadfast. Pray for the ummah, pray for your family, pray for your parents, your siblings, your relatives, friends, teachers, etc. And cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of your ability. Try to do individual time now. And in the next 15 minutes, we can wrap up and go to bed. Read the 4 قُلْ يَا الْكَافِرُونَ قُلْ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِالْفَلَقِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِالنَّاسِ. Read Ayatul Kursi at the very least. Before you go to sleep, make sure you're sleeping with something on the ground. Don't sleep directly on the ground. Make sure you have a bedding. If you don't have a bedding, come ask one of us, volunteers here. We'll try to make arrangements for you. At least even if it's a sheet. Go to sleep facing the qibla.